Hello, today is Saturday, and today I wanted to think about the many poor families and people around the world who have lost someone who is near and dear. Grief is a universal experience, and at some stage or another we will all experience it. I know from personal experience that when you lose the most important person in your life, in your world, it takes a very long time to get over. And it's not a depression, but there is your focus, your whole being is overtaken by thoughts of that person that is no longer with you. And it takes a long time to come to terms with that loss. So my sympathy and my empathy go out to everybody who's suffering at this time. And I suppose that sort of brings us on to other questions about those that we have around us. I've often experienced that when you go to a funeral, you learn interesting things about people that you'd never learnt before. They hadn't shared them, they just carried on with normal conversations, and they'd never told you about their former lives. And it's always so sad when you finally get to hear about it and you can't sit down for a chat with them about it. So today I thought I'd just take a few moments to review a few questions that we can ask those people that we do love and that we do care for, who are in our world now. Obviously we don't want to lose them, but why not ask those questions and have conversations that are of a much deeper level and find out who they really are and what really makes them tick and what their experiences are. And that will make our relationships even richer than they are already, and it will mean that we can share so much more human stories rather than waiting for them to be trotted out at a funeral by somebody who doesn't really know the person who's sadly gone. So I've searched around and found a few questions which I think are really interesting that we can ask those who are near and dear to us. So here are some questions to ask your parents. What comes to mind when you think about growing up in your hometown? They will obviously come up with stories about their childhood and the environment that they lived in, that with details you may not have even been aware of. Here's the second question. What did you love to do as a young child? This will bring out memories of riotous events and humorous tales, and will reach back into the past that maybe they haven't visited for a long time and will enjoy doing so again. The third question is, what did you love to do in secondary school? They may have had some talents, may have been involved in sports or music, or won some class award, or been the joker of the class. They would no doubt come up with interesting stories that you probably haven't heard before. What do you remember most about your mum and dad? Now this is interesting because it reaches a long way back into decades we don't even think about much now, apart from sort of history classes on the news and on the television that we see, documentaries of how things were. But to get that personal flavour of what it was like to live in those times, it's again enriching. So, talking about your grandparents, what was most important to each of them? And if Grandma and Grandpa had a message to you and their grandchildren, what do you think it would be? Question 8. How did you meet your spouse and know that he or she was the one? This again may bring out stories that you have never heard of before, and tales that maybe in your older years you now appreciate more. How did you choose your career, and what was your favourite part about it? I think careers are very various. I know that with my mum, I never really knew much about her early dancing career. Having done some research since she passed, I've been quite shocked, really, about the things that I've learned, and I wish she'd shared more of it when she was alive, but sadly that wasn't to be. What made you successful at work? They may have only had a sort of manufacturing type of job in a shoe factory or something, as my father-in-law would have had. And again, tales don't get passed down. They don't talk about it. They don't think it's interesting. But actually, for us, the next generations down, it is interesting. And we'd like to hear those stories. So do think about asking about their work. What made you successful at work? Again, as I say, it might be a promotion, or it might be a change of job, or it might be some specific aspect that they really felt that it gave them good experience. So this is an interesting question. Which 3 events most shaped your life? So that could be anything. It could be global events, such as we're experiencing now, or local events, external events, events in the family. All sorts of things could come up from that kind of question. The next question. When you think about your brothers and sisters, how would you describe them? Obviously, they would have to have brothers and sisters to be able to describe them, but they will have their own takes on the characters of their siblings, and might make you laugh as well. There may be some stories that don't want to be repeated, but you never know. This is another interesting question. What were the 3 best decisions you ever made? Now that will probably take some thinking about. We don't necessarily sort of trip them off the top of the tip of the tongue when we talk about the best decisions we've ever made. We might not even have analysed it before. So these questions could take a long time to go through and explore. What are the 5 most positive moments of your life? Again, this is one that they probably have to sit down with a pencil and pen and try and fathom out which were the most pivotal moments of their life, the most positive moments of their life. Some of them may be the birth of children, getting married, or some other event, significant event. And what message would you like to share with your family? So they may have had things that they thought, I wish I would tell them, but I don't really want to sort of come out and just say it. They might take offence, but of course if they're being asked for that, their opinions and what they'd like to share with the family, that gives them a complete open page to share with the thoughts and ideas that they've had that maybe they haven't felt like expressing before. And the final question is, what are you most thankful for? And I think that might be a surprising question for everybody. We don't always sit down and count our blessings, but it is something that we really ought to do more often and be more conscious of as each day passes. There's a lot of chatter on Facebook and other social media, criticisms and, well, I wouldn't do it this way and they've made that wrong and this and that and the other. But actually, when you sit at home in your lockdown, there are so many things to be grateful for. And I do suggest that if people are feeling critical and feel that they're in a bad place, they've only got to watch Al Jazeera News for a couple of hours and they will be really appreciative of where they are today. So we do have many blessings and we need to count them and enjoy the family that we have around us. We don't know, they may be around for many decades to come. But if the unthinkable happens, it would be good to have had the conversations and asked those questions that you've always thought you might get round to asking. Now we have the time, whether it's by phone or by Skype, whatever method you communicate with them. Sit down, make a cup of coffee at each end of the telephone line and set aside some time to have a good long chat. And if you can do it over Skype, that's great. And if they don't mind being recorded for posterity, why not? It will be an interesting thing to have in the family archive along with the photographs, which incidentally I've been trying to sort out my photograph collection. But that's another story. So I do hope that you've appreciated and enjoyed these thoughts and that you will have some really good and interesting conversations with the members of your family and those who are near and dear to you. Until next time. Bye for now.